Hello, Gia and Envy. First, let me start off by saying I love you both. Been a loyal listener since the Casey Crew episode 1 and Breakfast Club fan for many years. I love your relationship and communication. I've been with my husband for close to 18 years. Our relationship is wonderful and we're really happy together. This past weekend, we went out and got into a public argument, which we never do, and totally messed up our day. I'm still mad about this today because it bothers me. So I need some help to settle this once and for all. First of all, here's some background info. My husband is very good at arguing, and even though he is wrong at times, he still wins because I give up. I call him the lawyer. I call Gia the lawyer too. Okay, this is gonna be great. Oh, I know you know what I'm talking about, Envy. I do. Since Gia is a lawyer in your relationship, LOL. He got all the answers and rebuttals in the world, and it's annoying. Sometimes he makes me feel as though he doesn't really care about my feelings and just wants to win the argument. We are both Scorpios, and we get along great for the most part, but sometimes the Scorpio stinger comes out. This past Saturday, we went out, and he kept saying the N-word in public as he was drinking. That sounds like me. At first, I didn't say anything, but later I just couldn't keep my mouth shut and told him he looked crazy saying that in public and to please stop, which I said very nicely. At one point, there was a black couple next to us. He then got mad and kept on justifying why it's okay for him to say that. He says it's okay, it's just a word, and that he grew up in the hood. He's Mexican and I'm white. That nigga crazy. Also, that when he grew up, him and his black friends would just say it to each other as a term of endearment, even and no matter what race they were referring to. So we kept on arguing about this, and he defended his behavior, no matter or regard of my opinion. He also says if it ever became a problem in public, he would deal with it then. My thing is, why even get into or invite that situation in the first place? Also, why doesn't he care that it bothers me and it looks ridiculous? I think that's the bigger issue. He always says when we go out, we are both representing each other. So why do this? It's not classy at all and gives me the ick, to be honest. It bothers me because if I did something in public and it bothered him, I would stop immediately, even if I didn't feel right. To be fair, he was not using the word in a bad way, more like calling me that. Oh my God. Which would be okay to do at home, and I wouldn't have had a problem. But in public, it's not acceptable. I feel, and it bothers me. What do you guys think?
Okay, hold on.
Oh, he says, like, I love you, my nigga. Love, yours truly, Embarrassed Anonymous.
Okay. So clearly, he is Mexican.
Well, yeah.
However, when he says the word, for him, it is a term of endearment. According to him, he grew up in the hood.
According to him.
And this is, excuse me?
Can I crack a joke?
Feel free.
If you really want to get him, just push him outside when ice is outside and be like, see you later, my nigga. That's what you should do.
So I relate to the embarrassment that she speaks of when her husband is insensitive.
It's a jokey joke
To other nationalities and their plight.
It's a jokey joke. Yeah, that was kind of funny though. Like,
Mercedes and Esat just left the room.
Okay. let me start.
I was starting. How do you cut me off?
Because I'm gonna
So for you, all of you guys that say that I cut Rashawn off from time to time,
one time.
he is the pot.
One time.
Right now.
Relax, my nigga. All right. Now, I would say this. First of all, this is gonna be tough. He shouldn't be using the word anyway as a term of endearment. There shouldn't be the way to use that word, right? You shouldn't be using that word unless you're black, in my opinion. But then I'm gonna tell you how that's not necessarily true, right? And I'm gonna explain to you. And I know black people are gonna be upset with me, but it is what it is. I grew up in New York City, right? And in New York, Spanish people and black people, we kind of grew up together, right? We grew up together on Jamaica Avenue. We grew up together in the Bronx. We grew up together in Brooklyn. We grew up together. Part of the reason why you hear Fat Joe say the word nigga and nobody really care. I'll just say the N-word, right? You hear Fat Joe say the N-word.
Oh, now you have a problem saying the whole word?
No, because I'm gonna say
Now is where you draw the line.
no, because I'm gonna say
Tiffany, what brick just dropped out of the sky?
I'm gonna say it that many times, right? That's why you hear Fat Joe say the N word, and nobody's really mad or upset at Fat Joe is because he grew up in the hood and that's how he was raised. Same thing with Jennifer Lopez. You hear her say N word in a couple of her songs.
Is
You've
that
heard it before.
true?
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't really recall.
Pull up Jennifer Lopez. I think it's the song with Ja Rule. She said the N word. Absolutely positively. Google it. But that's because I grew up with Puerto Ricans in New York. He might have grew up with black people wherever he grew up, and that was what they did.
That's what I was getting at before you cut me off.
I'm sorry. But the problem with that is when you're out in public, you don't know how that affects people. And this is a tough one because if people are offended by it, it's foul. And I never understood. I know she did.
What's the name of the song?
I'm real.
I'm real.
I'm real with Ja Rule. So if you look at, and this is the thing that bothers me when we use the N word, right? If you talk about a word that's a slur when it comes to the Spanish people, right? If somebody black said that, they would crucify us. If we said, yes, if you say a word that's a slur to Indian people, if you say a word that's a slur to Jewish people, if you say a word that's a slur to if you say a word that's a slur to any other ethnic groups than black people, people will get mad. They will be picketing. They will have a problem. If you say the slur for Chinese people, for Asian people, for all these different people, even if you don't say the word correctly, right? Like one of the biggest misconceptions is somebody will say that person is Oriental, right? Which is not a term. Oriental is a rug. People will really get confused, but the thing about it is a lot of people don't know the knowledge because that's what they've been told for years. But if you say any of these terms, you can get canceled and people will they will crucify you. But the N word is a lot different because people use it as a term of endearment. You, my friend, my white friend, you should not be using that term. It does not fit for you. It's not for your people. It is totally off the table when it comes to it. And it should be for my Mexican brother as well. But the biggest problem is to win an argument, right? When you're dealing with somebody that's an attorney, like I'm dealing with Gia all the time, you have to pick your battles, right? And the reason you pick your battles is because Gia, probably like your husband, thinks 3 steps ahead, right? So if Gia already has the argument in her mind and knows what she's going to say before you say. So what I realize I have to do is I have to fall back. I can't give her that until I'm 5 steps in front of her, right?
Which never happens.
Whatever. I'm about to eat.
Bless you.
So what I usually do is when I'm having a problem with Gia, I won't deal with it in that situation. I deal with it later when I can really completely understand the argument and what I want to say. Sneeze again. I don't know. I got a cold or something. Thank you. So also when it comes to that, that's what I would do with the argument. Also,
wait, hold on. So you're saying you defer?
I will defer an argument and
Arguments?
then argue later when I have my ducks in a row to know what I'm going to say because you're very fast on the draw. So you know what you're going to say, how you're going to say. That's why I always call you a lawyer because if you're in court, you got to know how to pivot. Gia knows how to do that well. And if you're not really thinking or your mind doesn't think like that, you will always lose, in my opinion. Two, I will say this other thing too. Me and Gia have an unwritten rule that we never discuss, but it's just a rule. We never argue in public. We will never argue in front of somebody. We will never argue unless it's family or something like that. But even if Gia and I are upset at each other for anything, we will not argue in public. We will not give anybody that energy. We will sit in that car. And when we get back in the car, we'll argue. We will be at that restaurant. We won't speak. We won't talk. We'll just haha, this, that, and the other. And then when we get back home or we get in the car or wherever where nobody is, then we'll have that conversation. We never like to argue in front of people because we do realize that sometimes it's not the argument which destroys relationships or cause problems. It's how it's spoken, who is in front of, what happens outside and around that. So we always take that. We could be in a club and be mad as fuck at each other. We won't say anything. Then when we get back in that car, we're going to explode. Or when we get back in that house, then we're going to explode. But that's how we are. And I think that's how people should solve their problems. Like, don't argue in front of people. Don't give people that energy. And sometimes if I say, you're a bitch, let's say, and she might be like, well, you're a dickhead. It's cool. We can get over it.
Not really.
But now, hold on. But now if you're in a club.
No, you called me a bitch. I can't remember you ever calling me a
I'm just
bitch.
using that as an example. But if
I know, but it's not a realistic example.
But if I say you're an asshole.
You don't call me an asshole.
I don't call you anything, but I'm just kidding. Could you just go with what I'm saying?
Can you just say something that's a little bit more realistic? Because it's just not real. That's not honest.
I don't call you any names anyway. So if I said you're late, I don't know. I don't know.
What if you said like, I don't know. You don't say anything nasty.
But if I call her a nasty name, let's say I called her a bitch or asshole.
Let's just say, okay.
That's what I said 10 minutes ago.
I just had to clarify because you said it so cavalierly as though this is how we speak to each other. It's not how we speak to each other.
But if I called her a name and we were in a call with each other, it's just us, it's easy to just say, all right, fuck it. We were just mad in the moment. But now if we say it in front of people, it's a different level of disrespect, right?
Absolutely.
Because now it's not just you and him. It's not, you're going to disrespect me in front of Sue. You're going to disrespect me in front of Michael. You're going to disrespect me in front of Calvin, which makes the situation a lot worse. Well, are you going to disrespect me in public?
There was a problem that you guys were arguing about in the first place. Now it's two problems.
Correct. So
it doesn't just make that problem bigger. It's two completely separate problems at that point.
Correct. So to answer your question, the first thing that you guys should say is if you do have a problem in public, you should handle it outside. And you're absolutely right. If him saying the N-word makes you uncomfortable and it makes you feel icky, which it should, he should be able to respect you and be like, you know what? It is what it is. I won't do that around you. I won't do that in public. Now, if you want to do it with his black friends and he's comfortable with his black friends doing it, that's something different. But as far as out and about with you, you're absolutely positively right. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, which it should, if it makes you feel icky, which you should, then he should not be using those words or that tone when he is talking to you. What do you feel?
I don't have anything to add. I agree with everything that you said.
Mm-hmm. And also, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, sometimes you might have to say things that make him feel uncomfortable. Whatever that you know will hit that spot to be like, oh, because sometimes people don't feel that, because not to say I feel is wrong, but I do understand when you grow up in a certain environment, especially as a kid. When I was a kid, I grew up with Spanish people. I'm sure I grew up with Mexicans. I'm sure I grew up with white people. I grew up with everybody. It was like a melting pot. And if somebody used the N-word when I was a kid, it really didn't make me think about it. Now, when I'm older, I think about it and I look at it a different way. But when I was a kid, it was, what's up, my nigga? What's up, my nigga? Like, that's just what we did. When you play basketball, foul, my nigga. That was a foul, nigga. Like, that's what it was. And it's a lot different now. But growing up in New York, it was what it was. The bodega guy said it. This person said it. This person said it. It just was what it was.
But the fact that he's using the word, I just want to spend a little bit more time on that because, like I was saying before, he grew up around Black people. Correct. And they probably accepted him as one of their own. Mm. And they probably used that term of endearment towards him. And he probably reciprocated the same energy. So in that bubble, it was okay. But what he has to realize, my point is, I don't think that there's any malintent or any racism or any disrespect meant when he uses the word. But the problem is that he doesn't exist within a bubble. So now when you take that same mentality and you go to a restaurant and he has a few drinks in him and he's feeling loose and he uses the word casually when there are other people around that can be offended, he has to be more self-aware in that situation because... And that's why when you were referring to the N-word as it compares to other racial slurs, I was like, and the reason I was like, is because there is a very specific and hurtful history associated with the N-word.
I think with these other words too, I just think in these other backgrounds, people respect them more. Like,
it's not the same.
Like
it's not the same.
The Asian word is crazy.
No, it's not crazy.
The Spanish word is crazy.
No, they're not crazy. I'm part Asian. I am part Spanish. I am part... And nothing is like the N-word. Our people were lynched.
It's all fucked up.
And it's not as effed up. It's just like if you put it on a scale of effed upness, it kind of tilts in one direction. But as Black people, what we've done is we've taken the word, we've disarmed it, we've made it our own, and we took a lot of the power away from it. But we still reserve the right to be suspicious of someone that doesn't have the ability to own that word, using that word, because we don't know what their intention is. So when you're in a public place and you use that word, you are like running the risk of being pummeled. Like, it's not smart. It's not sensitive. And if you choose to do it in your home, coming from his background of being around, okay, no malintent, but it's not smart and it's not sensitive to do it in public.
All right. Well, let us know how it works out. You could always email us, thekcrew@gmail.com, TheeKCrew@gmail.com.